When I saw that blue sedan flying down Central Avenue at 75 miles per hour in a 45 zone, I thought it was just another reckless driver I'd have to ticket and lecture about road safety. But when John pulled over and I saw the desperation in his eyes, I knew something was seriously wrong. His breakdown about racing to save his mother from another beating by his stepfather triggered every protective instinct I'd developed in 8 years of police work. Following him to that house and seeing the fear in his mother's bruised face reminded me why I became a cop in the first place. 2 months later, when she gave me her grandmother's antique ruby necklace, I learned that sometimes the most routine calls become the most meaningful moments of your career. Hi everyone, welcome to Life's Changing Stories. Now let's dive into today's story. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across downtown Phoenix as Officer Taylor Brooks completed her third traffic stop of the day, watching another speeder drive away with a warning and hopefully a renewed respect for school zone speed limits that existed to protect children walking home from Desert Ridge Elementary. At 31, Taylor had been patrolling the streets of Phoenix for 8 years, long enough to recognize the patterns of her beat and develop instincts about which drivers were simply running late versus those whose aggressive driving suggested deeper problems that might require more than a citation to resolve. Taylor had joined the Phoenix Police Department straight out of Arizona State University, motivated not by family tradition or childhood dreams of law enforcement, but by a criminal justice professor who had challenged her to consider how social work principles could be applied within police work to address root causes of community problems rather than simply responding to their symptoms. Her approach to policing emphasized de-escalation, community engagement, and the understanding that most people she encountered were having the worst day of their lives, not defining moments of their character. The afternoon shift on Central Avenue typically involved routine traffic enforcement, responding to minor accidents, and occasionally mediating disputes between downtown business owners and transient individuals who gathered near the light rail stations. Taylor enjoyed the variety and unpredictability of street patrol, preferring the direct community interaction to the paperwork and politics of detective work or administrative positions that some of her colleagues pursued for better hours and higher pay. As Taylor positioned her patrol car to monitor the intersection where Central Avenue crossed the main thoroughfare leading to several residential neighborhoods, she had no idea that her next traffic stop would transform from routine enforcement to life-saving intervention, connecting her with a family whose gratitude would ultimately change her own financial future while reminding her why compassionate policing could make the difference between justice and mere law enforcement. The blue sedan speeding toward her position was about to test every skill she'd developed in 8 years of police work. Officer Taylor Brooks had been patrolling the streets of Phoenix for 8 years, long enough to develop reliable instincts about traffic violations and the people who committed them. At 31, she had earned respect from colleagues and community members for her combination of firm law enforcement and genuine compassion for people caught in difficult circumstances. Taylor's path to police work had been influenced by her grandmother, a retired social worker who had taught her that helping people often meant looking beyond the immediate problem to understand underlying causes. This philosophy had shaped Taylor's approach to everything from domestic disturbances to traffic stops, where she tried to balance public safety with understanding individual circumstances. On this particular Tuesday afternoon, Taylor was monitoring traffic along Central Avenue when she noticed a blue sedan traveling at what appeared to be excessive speed through a zone marked for 45 mph. Her radar gun confirmed the vehicle was traveling 30 miles over the posted limit and dangerous enough to warrant immediate intervention. Taylor activated her lights and siren, following the sedan for approximately 2 minutes before the driver pulled over in a shopping center parking lot. As she approached the vehicle, she ran the license plate through her computer system and found no previous violations or outstanding warrants for the registered owner. Taylor walked to the driver's window and knocked gently. The window rolled down to reveal a young man in his mid-20s who appeared extremely agitated and stressed. "Good afternoon," Taylor said professionally. "I'm Officer Brooks with the Phoenix Police Department. I stopped you because you were traveling 75 mph in a 45 mph zone. May I see your driver's license and registration, please?" The driver, whose hands were visibly shaking, immediately began apologizing. "Officer, I'm so sorry. I know I was speeding. I didn't mean to. I wasn't paying attention to my speed." Taylor accepted the license and registration, noting the driver's name was John Martinez and that he was avoiding eye contact while appearing genuinely distressed rather than simply annoyed about being stopped. "Is there an emergency situation I should know about?" Taylor asked, recognizing signs of extreme anxiety that went beyond typical traffic stop nervousness. John initially denied any emergency, but his body language and obvious distress suggested otherwise. Taylor's training and experience told her that something significant was motivating this level of reckless driving. "John, I need you to be honest with me," Taylor said gently. "People don't usually drive 30 miles over the speed limit unless something important is happening. What's going on?" John looked directly at Taylor for the first time, and she could see desperation and fear in his expression. Suddenly, he began crying uncontrollably, struggling to speak through his emotional breakdown. "I'm trying to get to my mum," John finally managed to say. "She called me and said he's hitting her again. My stepdad, he's been beating her since I was a kid, and I'm scared he's going to really hurt her this time." Taylor immediately understood the gravity of the situation. This wasn't a routine traffic violation. It was a domestic violence emergency that required immediate intervention. "John, this kind of situation absolutely requires police involvement," Taylor said firmly. "I can't let you handle this alone, and I can't let you continue driving at dangerous speeds. I'm going to follow you to your mother's house, and we're going to address this properly." John initially resisted police involvement, explaining that his mother had made him promise never to call the authorities because she was afraid of making the situation worse. "I understand your mother's fears," Taylor replied, "but domestic violence situations escalate over time, and eventually someone gets seriously injured or killed. I need you to trust me to handle this the right way." John finally agreed, his anger and frustration evident as he said, "Fine, but when you see what he's done to her, you better lock up that monster and throw away the key." Taylor assured John she would do her job according to the law, but reminded him to drive at safe speeds while she followed with her emergency lights activated. The drive to John's mother's house took only 5 minutes, but it felt much longer as Taylor prepared herself for what she might encounter. Domestic violence calls were among the most dangerous and emotionally challenging aspects of police work, requiring careful balance between victims' safety and legal procedures. When they arrived at the modest, single-story house in a residential neighborhood, John's mother opened the front door before they reached it, clearly trying to appear calm despite obvious signs of distress. Taylor immediately noticed bruising around the woman's left eye and scratches on her arms that suggested recent physical conflict. John's mother, who appeared to be in her 50s, had clearly been crying, but was attempting to maintain composure in front of the police officer. Taylor recognized this behavior as typical of domestic violence victims who had learned to hide evidence of abuse to protect themselves and their abusers from consequences. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Brooks," Taylor said gently. "Your son was concerned about your safety and asked me to check on you. Are you injured? Do you need medical attention?" John's mother initially denied any problems, claiming that John had misunderstood their phone conversation and that her visible bruises were the result of falling downstairs. She avoided eye contact and spoke in the rehearsed manner that Taylor recognized from previous domestic violence responses. John became increasingly frustrated with his mother's denials, begging her to tell the truth about the years of abuse she had endured and accept help from someone who could actually stop the violence. "Mum, please," John pleaded. "I'm terrified that one day I'm going to get a call that it's too late. This officer wants to help you. Let her do her job." Hearing her son's desperate words, John's mother finally broke down and admitted that her husband had been physically abusing her for over 15 years, though she still tried to defend him by saying he was basically a good person with anger management problems. Taylor asked permission to enter the house and immediately observed evidence of a violent struggle: overturned furniture, broken picture frames, and holes in the drywall that suggested repeated impacts from thrown objects or physical altercations. John's stepfather was present in the living room, having overheard the conversation at the front door. Taylor could see scratches on his hands and knuckles that were consistent with recent physical violence. Based on the physical evidence, witness statements, and visible injuries, Taylor placed John's stepfather under arrest for domestic violence assault. As she led him to her patrol car in handcuffs, she explained his legal rights and assured John and his mother that he would be held accountable for his actions. John and his mother embraced while both crying, with John reassuring her that the years of fear and violence were finally over and that she could begin rebuilding her life without constant threat of abuse. 2 days later, John's stepfather was formally charged in court and sentenced to significant prison time based on the evidence Taylor had documented and testimony from John's mother, who finally felt safe enough to speak honestly about the years of abuse she had endured. Taylor considered this case to be more than routine police work. It represented the kind of intervention that could literally save lives by breaking cycles of violence that typically escalate over time until someone suffers permanent injury or death. She had worked tirelessly to ensure the case was properly prosecuted, spending extra time documenting evidence and coordinating with victim services to provide John's mother with resources for counseling and legal support. Exactly 2 months after the arrest, Taylor received an unexpected package at the police station. Initially assuming it was from her husband or family, she was surprised to discover it came from John's mother, along with a handwritten note that brought tears to her eyes. The note read, "Officer Brooks, you are proof that angels still exist. Your timely intervention allowed me to finally live without constant fear of abuse. I can never adequately thank you for giving me back my life and safety. P.S. Thank you also for letting John off the hook for speeding. Even angels understand the need for a little lead foot when you're running to save someone you love." Inside the package was an antique ruby necklace with intricate gold metalwork and stones of extraordinary clarity and size. Taylor recognized it as the kind of jewelry that suggested significant age and value, far beyond anything she could afford on a police officer's salary. That evening, Taylor took the necklace to a reputable jewelry appraiser and was shocked to learn its estimated value. The piece was apparently an antique dating to the early 1900s, with rubies and craftsmanship that made it extremely valuable. Immediately after leaving the jewelry store, Taylor drove to the address where she had arrested John's stepfather, only to discover that John's mother had moved and put the house up for sale. A neighbor informed her that the family had relocated to New Mexico to start fresh away from the location where so much trauma had occurred. After some investigation, Taylor was able to contact John's mother by phone and express her concern about the value of the gift she had received. John's mother explained that the necklace had been a family heirloom passed down from her grandmother, but it no longer held positive sentimental value for her because it reminded her of the years she had spent trapped in an abusive relationship while wearing it to family gatherings and pretending everything was fine. "I want you to have it," she told Taylor over the phone. "It represents a difficult chapter of my life that I need to move beyond, and I can't think of anyone more deserving of something beautiful." John also spoke to Taylor during the phone conversation, explaining that her actions had gone far beyond normal police duty to demonstrate genuine compassion and understanding for their family's situation. "True value lies in the kindness and support people offer each other, not in material things," John said. "You gave us something more valuable than any jewelry. You gave us freedom from fear and violence. We want you to have the necklace as a reminder of the good you've done and the positive change you've brought into our lives." A few weeks later, Taylor made the difficult decision to sell the necklace. The proceeds significantly impacted her family's financial situation, allowing her and her husband to pay off student loans and make a substantial down payment on their first house. More importantly, the experience served as a powerful reminder that compassionate policing could transform not only the lives of people she helped, but also her own life in unexpected ways. The case had reinforced Taylor's belief that effective police work often required looking beyond immediate law enforcement to address underlying problems that created criminal situations in the first place. John's mother had been able to escape an abusive relationship and rebuild her life in a safe environment, while John no longer lived with the constant fear that his mother might be seriously injured or killed by her abuser. For Taylor, the experience had demonstrated that sometimes the most routine traffic stops could become opportunities to save lives and make meaningful differences in community safety. The ruby necklace had been beautiful and valuable, but the real treasure had been the knowledge that her decision to treat John's speeding as a symptom of a larger emergency rather than simply a traffic violation had prevented potential tragedy and given a family the chance to heal from years of trauma. Taylor kept a photograph of the necklace on her desk at the police station as a reminder that compassionate law enforcement could create positive change that extended far beyond immediate legal consequences. The case became part of Taylor's standard training presentation for new police officers, emphasizing the importance of looking for underlying causes of suspicious behavior and treating community members as people with complex problems rather than simply law violators who needed to be processed through the criminal justice system. John's family had found safety and a fresh start in New Mexico, while Taylor had gained both financial stability and renewed conviction that her chosen career could make meaningful differences in people's lives. The speeding violation that had seemed routine had actually been a desperate attempt by a son to save his mother's life, and Taylor's decision to treat it as such had created positive outcomes for everyone involved. Years later, when Taylor would encounter other domestic violence situations, she would remember John's mother and the courage it had taken for her to finally accept help after 15 years of abuse. The ruby necklace had been sold, but its impact continued through Taylor's ability to provide her own family with better housing and financial security while maintaining her commitment to the kind of policing that recognized the humanity and complexity of every person she encountered during her patrol duties. The case had proven that sometimes the most valuable rewards for doing good work come in forms we never expect, and that genuine compassion in law enforcement creates benefits that extend far beyond immediate public safety concerns to touch lives in ways that can last for generations. We hope you enjoyed today's story of love, life, and betrayal. For more free stories and entertainment from our channel, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe with notifications.